Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar with Olga and 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗔. We're very excited to have everybody here today. Please feel free to drop your questions, comments in the chat, and we'll have somebody answer those. Otherwise, feel free to stay to the end and we'll do a live Q&A as well. But buckle in, I think that we're in for a good episode today about lineage, why it matters, and really what good looks like. So without further ado, we'll hop into some introductions and we'll go from there. Fantastic. Olga, why don't you start us off?
Hi, everyone. My name is Olga Maydanchik, and I am information management practitioner. What does it mean? And the difference between practitioner and consultant is consultant just simply creates PowerPoint slides, and practitioner actually implements solutions and finds the problems to them. I'm also an educator, so I've been fortunate enough to work in many big organizations and implemented many different solutions. So I've learned a thing or two along the way, and I really, really, really like to share it with everybody. That's about me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Olga. Manan?
Hey, good day, everyone. My name is Manan. I've been in the industries for 25 years now, working around the data space, around data modeling, data architecture, and data governance. Along with that, in my previous life, I used to also delve into business process modeling. So love data, do respect data, and like to see data being treated properly within organizations. I am passionate about maintaining data quality within organizations, and that's what I try to preach. I preach what I believe, and I believe what I preach.
Fantastic.
Thank you guys for having me.
No, thank you for joining us. Thank you both. And my name is Louis. I look after the 𝗨𝗃 Solutions team here. We are a leader in the data management, metadata, and governance space. We've been around from 2016, and I'm very excited to be next to Olga and Manan today for this presentation. So we're going to hop right into our sponsors of 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗔. So Manan, why don't you tell us a little bit about 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗔 and what you guys do?
So 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗔 is focusing around data and our increasing love for data and making sure that the data is maintained within organizations. Over the years, we have seen data has become an central part of any organizations. Just like their customers, data is also the key portion of the organizations for their survivorship, and protecting that data and also clearly understanding where that data is, where the data is coming from, and also where it's going. So we like to help our clients achieve those goals around data management, data architecture, everything data. Thank you.
Fantastic. And then a little bit about 𝗨𝗃 Solutions for those who haven't heard of us before. As I mentioned earlier, we are a global leader in the space of metadata management and data analytics and governance. We've been so since 2016. We're operating globally. I'm calling you here from San Francisco, and we're very proud of some of the anonymous Gartner reviews that our customers have left us, right? So please feel free to check them out. The name 𝗨𝗃 comes from the Library of Alexandria, the keeper of all knowledge. So our aim and our mission is to be the keeper of all data and metadata for our customers. And if you're a history buff, you'll know that the library unfortunately burnt down, but it was standing for a few hundred years, and hopefully we'll have the same legacy as well. So far, so good. So fingers crossed. And then just a little bit more social proof in terms of where we are and how we stand in the market. So, in the data and analytics space, we're a top 5 vendor across key use cases like enterprise control, operational governance, domain analytics, and experimentation, which is your AI readiness, your AI governance. And you can see on average, we've ranked first from a metadata perspective. So we know a thing or two about Lineage. It's something that we're very proud of. It's our genesis. And as you'll see through some of the presentation today. Okay, so that's introductions from our side, and we're going to hop straight into what is data lineage, an introduction and an overview, and Olga's going to kick us off. Thank you, Olga.
Okay, guys, I really like to start with definition. Semantic is everything. So data lineage describes the path of data from the point of origin to the point of interest, including a detailed record of all data changes that occurred along the path. So for example, The data could start in operational data store, and then the pipeline, all those pipelines that are from data integration processes could move the data to data warehouse. And from there, the reporting and analytic processes could move the data to the reporting platform. So this visual representation of this data movement is actually called data lineage diagram. But what you are going to learn today in the presentation, that data lineage is so much more than just a pretty diagram on the picture. So before I even go into talk about data lineage, I want to state that collecting data lineage is one of the most expensive exercises. So be prepared. Nothing is free, but this is the most expensive dish on the market. Now, and if you really want to do it, you need to know why. So first of all, you absolutely have to have a business use case. And the point is, what you need to know, you need to find your champions and you need to find your stakeholders. So for very first and very important lineage use case, that's around legislative, regulatory, and audit requirements. Your best friends are compliance and audit functions. So I want to talk about that. So what is legislative requirements? So think about it's the law. Let's say GDPR is the law. And what is GDPR is about? Simply put, if you can't answer the question, hey, show me the data about person ABC and show me how you use the data about this person, then you are not GDPR compliant. That's it, simple. Regulatory requirements are a little bit different. They are very industry specific. For example, in financial industry, everybody heard about BCBS 239 or CCAR reporting, all kind of stuff. What is it about? So let's say if you have a model that predicts you some kind of a number, you want to be able to trace this number very back to the original system. So regulatory requirement is all about traceability. How this number, showed up, were the, transformations and what were the filters applies, pretty much everything. If you don't know, you are not passing this requirement. Audit requirements are yet a little bit different. So first of all, they have, external auditors, and usually companies have internal auditors. So what does it mean? That along the way of the lineage of data path, you wanted to know what are the controls. Basically, this requirement is about the fact that auditors want to know that you are not running your business on a spreadsheet. You actually have automated systems that are capable of applying automated controls. So that's the very first major lineage.
Yeah, absolutely, Olga. I was just going to add here a bit of law on the Alex front as well. We actually started off as a regulatory data lineage solution, and we expanded from there, right? So back in 2016, one of the largest Australian banks came to Alex and said, hey, we need to comply with BCBS 239. In Australia, it actually manifested itself as CPG 235. They love the acronyms and they love all of these random numbers, but it's the same thing, data attestation. If you submit this to us, how do we know that you trust it? How can you trace this lineage all the way back to the source system, how it's governed, what's the quality of it? Mm-hmm. And so we still see this as one of the most important use cases and implementations of data lineage today. And as you said, it's expensive, but if you have automation, I think it makes it a lot easier, which is what we've definitely focused on, right? So yeah, I really agree that this is like such a key pillar of data lineage use cases.
Mm-hmm. I also want to talk a little bit about other ones. So for example, change management and impact analysis. So the life in organization is all about change. We are constantly upgrading the system. We are buying new software. We are migrating data. We are doing absolutely everything and changing everything every day. Now, the little change that could happen in a very little database could manifest each other 10 times in many different reportings, in many different, dashboards and everything. But guess what? If you don't know the full path, you will be bound for the failures. You will have an angry customer who will come and say, hey, how come something is not working? That's the second very major use case. Now, third one, data quality management. Data quality is dear to me. Now, the thing is, you have an error in your report. What do you do? How do you even start thinking about where the problem is? Guess what? You talk to stakeholders, you probably look at the code, and you try to understand how the data came to this report. And only then you could figure out what went wrong. Now, data quality management should be simple, but typically it's very, very lengthy exercise just because you need to trace those data to the original manually every time you get the data quality issue. Finally, database optimization. We are paying a lot to our cloud providers. We are paying for storage and we are paying for processing time. And guess what? Half of our data are not used. So if you look at the lineage path and you could spot the columns that are not used, the columns that are not accessed by other different programs or by other dashboards, pretty much they're just sitting there. Guess what? You probably want to remove them. And by removing them, you might want to say, hey, this pipeline doesn't go anywhere. So again, the faster query will be a result, and of course the saving cost. I don't know, Manan, maybe you know about any other lineage use cases that I haven't covered here.
And no, you're spot on, because as I've dealt with a lot of customers have put in placeholders for future case scenarios where they now have to deal with data being put into that, and nobody knows. Again, going back to securing our data, no one knows exactly what's in those fields, how it's being used, how it's even being protected, because most of these fields are not encrypted anymore, especially when you have anything that's related to sensitive information, whatever you want to call it, SDI, PII, whatever it might be. And most companies are very, very bad at doing and maintaining those, right? And like you said, let's clean up the source data. Where's the data actually coming from? Well, ETL can fix everything for us. Well, ETL wouldn't have to fix everything to us if we had the original source properly maintained. And the only way we really know is, where does that phone number come from, or where does that revenue come from?
Yeah, absolutely, Manan. I guess, well, you know, one of the questions I had for you as well is, when customers reach out to Data AG, are they coming with something specific first and then broadening it out, or do you see it being, hey, I have all of these different use cases for Lineage? What's typical for a Data AG customer?
So a lot of customers are coming to us with issues where they've been audited, they've been data hack, data breach of any kind has happened, yeah. And now they're coming around to bandage the solution to understand what does their data even mean. A lot of these organizations, they have no idea what the current environments look like. And that's where they're coming from. And several organizations that I worked with in the past a year or so, several of them have been because they've been obviously a victim of a data breach of some sort or another. And they're just trying to understand where is everything coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. No, many such cases. Thank you for sharing.
All right, let's move on. And I am going to talk first about data lineage complexity. Before I go to data lineage, I'll share a little bit about myself. I'm a hiker. I love to hike through all kinds of national parks, and I use the app called AllTrails. By the way, they are not paying me for advertisement. So, and here's why I love this app. For example, I want to get the hike for the 10 miles, and it could show me the path. But this path means nothing to me, because if this path on a very flat road, you know, it's an easy hike. However, if I need to climb and then go down, then I have to start thinking, 2,000 mile elevation, it's probably okay. But maybe if it's 4,000 or 5,000 mile elevation, maybe I have to postpone this hike. Now, not only that, they also show me the grade of a hike. So it's not just the elevation, but do I really need to scramble during my hike, or do I really, you know, have a leisurely, steep, ascent? Now, it's also shown me many other things, whether this trail is out and back, whether it's round trip. So think about it. It's all the metadata about the trail. But now, this app doesn't have like one single screen. I have to navigate through the screen to get all those details, right? Because there's so many different things I want to know about this. For example, I want to know about the weather, or I want to know what I'm going to see on a trail, like flowers or animals or lakes or anything else. I have to be able to get together and superimpose this information to get the complete picture of my trail. Now, Lineage is exactly the same way. There is no one diagram that shows you everything. What you need to understand that Lineage is very interactive. You have to be able to move across different views of data lineage to literally get what you need from this data lineage picture. And it is not easy. It's very, very complex. So without further ado, I am going to talk about data lineage layers. Now, this is my personal view. I like to think about lineage in layers, and I see 4 layers. Some other vendors or consultants or the thought leaders would think that maybe it's 5 layers, 6, 7. It doesn't really matter. What important is to understand is what kind of metadata exist in different layers and how they support each other. So layers are physical, semantic, business, and operational. Now, I started with physical layer first. Why? Because it's a foundation for pretty much everything else. So what is physical lineage layer? Sometimes it's actually called technical lineage layer. So it shows the concrete components of the information ecosystem. So you see here how data move through applications, through systems, through databases, schemas, table, columns, data sets, reports, you see all kind of transformation code, filtering code, and everything else. Now, if I would have to describe in one sentence what is the physical lineage layer is about, it shows how the data flow. The next layer is a semantic layer. Now, one sentence description, it shows the meaning and context of the data. So instead of the cryptic column names like F1 or like F3 or something else, you could actually see that F1 might represent, the employee status code. And this connection between the physical columns that are stored in our data stores and something what we call business glossary, that's what represents the semantic lineage layer. Without that, it's just simply data movement and you don't really know what it is. Now, third layer is business lineage layer. Now, if I wanted to describe it in one sentence, it's basically who uses the data, why data are used this way, and who owns this data. So we are talking about business processes, maybe business processes. We are talking about policies, regulations. We are talking about all kind of controls and checkpoints and who is approving this particular data movement, who is doing what. Now, we are talking about business units because remember, some data could be originated in the sales department, some data belong to financial departments, some data belongs to marketing department, etc. So we are talking about ownership here. Now, we are also talking about who owns the data, who is the responsible party that this particular data set is correct. And of course, we are talking about data stewards. So that all of this comprise the business metadata that are related to lineage metadata. Finally, operational lineage layer. Sometimes it's also called runtime lineage layer. So what is it about? It's about not just the movement of the data, but it's about the health and performance of the data. So here we're talking about monitoring, how we're monitoring our pipelines, all kind of pipeline metrics. We're talking about controls that are applied during the pipeline execution. We are talking about error handling steps, validation, all kind of alerts, all kind of workflow orchestration, observability metrics. It's another very hot topic. So all of this represents the operational lineage layer. So I'm going to talk about those layers in a bit in details, but I don't know, Louis or Manan, do you have any questions on that?
No, I'm good, thank you. But very well done.
Okay, anyway, physical lineage layer, as I said, it's important to get it done right, because every mistake that we have on this physical lineage layer will be multiplied tenfold on all other lineage layers. Now, this is the only layer where collection is done pretty much automatically from start to finish. So before going even into the details, I want to talk about the granularity. You can collect lineage on many different levels. The top level is just on a system level. You're just talking, hey, the data come from system A to system B to system C, etc. This is your top view. Without knowing this top view, it's really hard to figure out what your enterprise is even doing. The next level down is the data set level lineage. Now we are talking about a little bit more details. We are talking about specific tables and specific schemas, and those schemas could be in specific databases. And we are talking about this level of details. Again, it's pretty high level. It's not as detailed, but this what probably gives you the biggest bang for the buck in terms of the investment into the data lineage collection, because it's much easier to create the lineage on this layer than on a column level lineage. Column level lineage is a very granular one. You're talking about movement from one particular column to movement to another particular column with all kind of transformation in between. So
yeah. No, absolutely. Olga, I was just going to say, I agree with this in terms of this structure of the lineage and how important the granularity is. I would just say for folks on the call who are evaluating, these types of solutions, I think it's important that you look for this level of granularity, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. I think our end users, our Alex customers, they always want to be able to see how is this data moving at the most granular level, at the column level, right? So as Olga said, I think the most important thing here is automation, which is why you'd want to look for a solution or a partner that highlights and focuses on the automated collection of data lineage at the column level. Because you can imagine how manual and intense this would be if you were to do it through Excels. By the time you're finished with it, the lineage would have changed in the source system already, right? So it's important to take note of.
I also want to add that when you're selecting the vendor, don't look that, oh yeah, I have lineage, I have column level lineage. No, look how convenient it is to use, because navigation is everything. Because after you collected and done everything, you will be having mountains in front of you, and this mountains call adoption. And your solution is not going to be adopted if navigation is difficult. So that's
true, Olga, that's so true, especially in complex enterprises, right, where it's already inherently siloed, inherently complex. You need something that is has guided navigation, easily collapsible things that you can see that helps you move through and traverse this complexity.
Mm-hmm. So the other thing I want to talk about, like when you're selecting a vendor, you have to look into something what I call containers. Now, that's my own world. I don't know how vendors is describing, but I usually like to think about lineage as kind of like a series of connected containers. And within one of the container, it could be the smaller one, and another one, and another one. So think about the Russian Matryoshka dolls. That's pretty much how those containers are organized. Now, those containers could be absolutely everything. Could be table, files, the objects, columns, APIs, dashboards, reports, sections, procedures, tasks. All these words that I just said, they are very text specific. For example, if you are trying to create lineage that involve Oracle database, you would have the name of your containers as tables and columns. But if you want to do the lineage with Salesforce, the naming will be objects and fields. If you're going to talk about ThoughtSpot reporting platform, then you're going to have answers or worksheet, something like that. In BI platform, completely different terminology. So what's important to do when you select the tool, to know how many technical solutions the Lineage tool can profile automatically, and how carefully and how granular they could extract the information from those tools and use correct terminology. Again, you want adoption. So if someone on Power BI team using the word data set and you are representing it in a Lineage as a table, guess what? Again, you're not going to achieve your adoption. The second thing I want to talk about, the container. Think about like a box. And we can describe this box many different ways. We could say, hey, it's a blue color or green color, it's big or small. And we could say, hey, it was produced in China, or it was produced in India, or in any other country. So a lot of metadata about this box. So somehow you want to rotate this container and extract all this very useful information within your Lineage tool. For example, it's a table. But we want to know that this table is located within this schema in this database. And actually the platform where this database is, it's SQL Server, or maybe, you know, Oracle platform or Snowflake, what have you. So first of all, you wanted to know the tech that surrounds this container, but you also want to understand the business side of it. So is this container represent some kind of application, and what's the name of this application? It could be, you know, some kind of very strange name like Falcon or something like that, meaningless. So when you want to select the tool, this is one of the most important things to see, how the tool represents different technology, not just that it can connect it and extract Lineage, but how you're going to be representing those little details. And finally, I'm going to talk about transformation. So every data migration project starts with data mapping document, typically Excel, that's created by the business analyst, the way you have, hey, the data from this column on this table goes to data to this column in the other table. And business analyst typically describes the logic, why and what you're supposed to do it. For example, if it's, let's say, the field was a full name and you want to extract only the last name, then the business analyst will explain how you want to do it. And then the developer will code it in ETL solution. Now, what Lineage tools will do, they extract the code. But this code could be very, very complex. It could create like temporary tables, tons of views and everything. So just reading this code will be, in understanding it will be impossible. So many years ago, I was trying to dig up for those data mapping documents and upload this logical description to the Lineage diagram so that the people who interact with Lineage could understand what this code is doing. But now we have AI, and AI could just be fed this piece of code, and then literally it could explain you what exactly this complex transformation is doing and what's the whole point. It makes consumption of Lineage extremely easy now. So again, when you're looking for the vendor, you probably want to look for this kind of a capability where the tool is telling you how the code is interpreted. So
absolutely, Olga. I mean, we've seen this to be quite a smash hit with Alex, as you guys can see some of the videos or screenshots that are on screen at the moment. The AI translator, but also any type of description generator from Alex's AI Guru has been very popular with our customers, as you can imagine. A lot of our organizations are going through a lot of change, whether that be reorganizations, whether that be people retiring, that had all of this SME knowledge. This is really helping democratize that across the organization, right? So we see that, as I mentioned earlier, yeah, these AI generated descriptions are one of our most used capabilities, even though we've introduced this relatively new in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm. I remember a long time ago when I was involved in a data cleanup exercise, so there were a lot of problems, and I actually had to go to code and read the code and understand it. And as far as I thought, okay, I'm technical, but this code was beyond my comprehension.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can only take it so far. Manan?
But it's also not just understanding what the current state is, but as it changes, right, over time, it is going to morph itself. New requirements are going to come in. And I think that's where a lot of organizations, their so-called data governance practices start to fail, because in 2023, they had it done, they did it correctly, but then the ever-changing landscape within the organizations, they haven't been able to keep up with that constant change, right? Developers are driving this 100 miles an hour. There's only so much we can do to keep up with that change. And it's changing without anybody really knowing what's going on, right? Nobody's communicating those requirements. Nobody's telling, hey, Olga, by the way, we're changing this field. It's not, because at 2 o'clock in the morning, something needs to change. I'm not going to contact Olga. I'm just going to get it done and go back to sleep.
And you're not going to go back to your mapping documents.
No, I'm not. Not Excel, not Microsoft Excel, especially.
All right. And I guess that's it about the physical lineage. Now let's talk about semantics. I just want to be very, very clear. If you don't have business glossary, you cannot create semantic lineage layer, period. So first, get yourself together and start a business glossary. So what's the business glossary? It's nothing but a collection of business terms, metrics, definitions that are unique to a specific enterprise. So it's not that you could go to ChatGPT and ask, hey, create me the list of terms used in auto industry. No, those should be terms, your terms. Now, just a list of terms, it's not useful. You want to organize them somehow. I call it domains and subdomains. Those are like a logical grouping of elements, and they are very useful when you are trying to search for those terms. Now, when Lineage shows you the data go from column A to column B, semantic layers tells you that column A represents the purchase order date, right? And then it's going to transform to something else, to different columns. Now, but sometimes you don't want to be that granular. You just want to say, hey, show me where my purchase order dates are going to. So somehow you want to look at the lineage on a domain level, just on a much higher level. And again, if you're talking about the, let's say, purchase order, that's actually part of a procurement data. Again, you wanted to say, hey, show me the data lineage that relates to procurement data. But unless you have business glossary, you will not be able to do it. Now, different tools, different data catalogs have different business glossary representation. I'd say representation is less important than functionality. And probably we might want to talk about business glossary for another 60 minutes or something. I want to be brief that you want to have something which is, again, very, very usable, something very easily updatable, and something very easily searchable. And again, your lineage must interact with business glossary. Now, how it's going to interact? The UI could be completely different in different tools. Maybe you can have like right click and where you see the description of a table. Maybe you go to different screen. On the screen here, you see how Alex representing it. You literally connect something to the business term for the column. To me, representation, absolutely not important. What is important, how this linkage is occurring. And here we're talking about machine learning. You cannot manually connect your columns to your business glossary because it's going to be too much work. So what the typical process is, you employ machine learning, AI, however you want to name it, and the tool propose those association between the physical column and your business glossary terms or metrics or what have you. And guess what? Chances are it's not going to be right in the very first time. So you probably want to look for some kind of functionality where you want to give a tool a feedback. Hey, you did this connection pretty good. Oh, no, completely. You know, your first name is not the same that the name of the application. The fact that there is a name in the field, don't please associate it. So ideally, the good tool should take all your feedback into account and probably create those association, more correctly next time. And the more you do it, the more feedback you give it, the more accurate those associations are. I don't know if you guys have any.
Olga, I was just going to say how important, the human in the loop is in all of this, right? And this, if I take a step back, the semantic layer and the context, the dictionary, the glossary, it's a foundational piece of what we do. I know that it is for our partners, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗍 as well, because without this context, you really can't do anything else, right? So we do spend a lot of time building this with our customers. We see that a lot of AI is helping this nowadays as well. And we also Alex comes out of the box with a semantic kind of package for our customers. So it comes out of the box with ontology models, data sets, popular industry terms, regulations as well. So you're already getting shipped with a semantic starter package that helps you build on top of it, right? So it is a critical component, as you mentioned. And yeah, Manan, anything else to share from your side?
No, I mean, glossaries are a key. I agree with that. And again, there are tools out there that claim to have glossaries, but they don't really do it justice.
Yeah, you don't want the glossary to just be there and siloed.
Correct.
You can see what Olga is saying. It needs to be interconnected with the catalog, the lineage, the quality. You actually need to have a pervasive semantic layer as opposed to it just being something terms and definitions, because
it needs to be organic.
Yeah, because that can be anywhere. That can sit in a Confluence page. It doesn't really mean anything if it's not interacting with other parts of the application.
Mm-hmm. But I also want to say that no matter what starter packages are available in a tool, it's not going to be tailored to your enterprise. You have to have a human curating those business terms and curating all those linkages. That's really important. And let's talk about business lineage. So if I have to say in one word what the business lineage is who uses the data. So, but it's also it helps us to understand who is responsible for the data and where it fits into the organization and why it matters in terms of business operation or compliance. Love maps analogies. So for example, when you drive and you have a map and you're hungry, you asking map, hey, give me food, and you'll have a list of restaurants nearby available. Or if you tired, you're looking for hotel. Again, you're looking for some places to stay. If you think about it, it's an overlays where you overlay one piece of information onto already existing information. Same thing with lineage. You already have your lineage, how your data moving, but now you can overlay so many different things. For example, who is the data owner? What's the data set rating? Is it trustworthy data set, or is it something that, temporary? What's the data quality? Is it good? Is it bad? Or is it kind of like use it your own, kind of, I blanking out. But anyway, so all this overlaid information represent the business aspect of the lineage, and it is really important to have that in your tool so that you can not only see the data movement, but some kind of idea of why the data move this way or the other way. So, and I also again want to go to map analogy. So if you're thinking about maps, you remember those little Google cars that were driving around all the neighborhoods and creating and compiling the information about all these routes, bigs and smalls, and they did it all over the world. Now, you don't interact with maps this way. You don't just look, hey, what are the maps? What are the roads in the city, etc. You simply ask, hey, show me the path from point A to point B. And all of a sudden you see your beautiful path highlighted, you know exactly how you want to go, and everything else is kind of on the background. It's very important to have that everything else on the background, because you might want to kind of zoom in and say, hey, but I don't want to go through the city. I want to find the alternate road and something like that. So this interaction is really important. Now, how does that relate to our lineage exercise? During lineage exercise, we are collecting thousands and thousands tables and information about 1,000 pipelines that connect those tables. And again, if that's all that you have, it's not going to be usable. What you wanted to do, you want to interact with your lineage in a way, hey, show me only interested lineage that relates to mortgage origination process, or how this particular report is created, or show me the lineage for, order fulfillment process, anything like that. So without that, your lineage is not going to be usable. Now, what do you need to do in order for the lineage to be usable? You want to map your pipelines to the business processes. If you are creating the pipeline, you have to have a purpose or the reason why this pipeline is created. And within your lineage tool, you have to kind of sort of impose this information that, hey, this is pipeline and it's used for this particular process. Now, don't forget that the same pipeline could be used by multiple processes. And also, don't forget that no matter how perfect you want to be, some processes will have gaps in your pipelines, because sometimes it could be just a manual step where you print the disk and then move it to a different computer. That's a gap. But in any way, without this business process context applied to a lineage, it would be next to impossible to consume the lineage. So you want to look for the tool that has this capability. And I actually wanted to show an example how Alex represents the GDPR reporting. So 3 important things you need to worry about it. First of all, you want to see the bird's eye view. You want to see like the top big picture, how many, applications or whatever the system's your path is. Then you want to zoom in on a particular section, same way how like in Google Maps, you want to look and see, hey, is there any alternative road? You wanted to be able to look for the detailed views, and you wanted to be able to navigate back and forth easily. So to me, those are pretty much the 3 things that you need to look in the tool. Okay, so let's go on and let's talk about operational data lineage. That's actually one of my favorites. So this layer represents pipelines in action. So people not only interested whether they have the data in data warehouse or something, they also want to know how up to date this data is. So not only you want to know that, hey, there was a pipeline that moved customer data, you want to know that this pipeline was executed last week or maybe a month ago, and maybe the last time it was executed a year ago. So the fact that you have this data in your data warehouse, it's not usable because they are old. So that's an operational component of a lineage. Now, another thing, remember we talked about audit requirements. So what controls do we have for our business processes? For example, let's say when one pipeline moves data from table A to table B, you might want to say, hey, if there was 1,000 records here, we're expecting to see the 1,000 records in the other table. Or we want to put the control that, let's say, we are not processing the same file twice. Or we want to set the control that, hey, if we're expecting file every day at 9 a.m., that this file indeed exists on our FTP side, and if it doesn't, then we want to raise an alarm. So all those ABC metrics, which is audit, balance, and control for data movement, are absolutely part of a lineage layer. Now, I want to be clear. Typically, those metrics don't reside within the lineage application. They reside within the data observability tools. But what's important to see that you somehow, the lineage, might consume those metrics to enrich the information about the data lineage. So, and I just want to give you a couple of use cases how it could be used. So, for example, let's say data scientist created a model, but this model doesn't deliver. Basically, it predicts result that literally doesn't make any sense. And what the data science should do, the first thing, he needs to examine what is the quality of the data from which the model consumes the data. And if you overlay the quality information into the lineage path, then you could see, hey, my model consumes the data from the data source with the 45% of data quality. What do you expect? How can you expect that the model performs and deliver what you want to do if you consume poor quality data? Again, the lineage should have this data quality overlay so that the people could see where they wanted to consume the higher quality data. So
yeah, this is great, Olga. I was just going to say, it's important to also understand the vendor, the solution that you're looking for, if they have this in one unified platform as well, right? So Olga, I know that you mentioned observability and observability tools, but with us here at 𝗨𝗪𝗃, we have developed our own data quality platform, right? And so we haven't Frankensteined it, we haven't acquired it from anybody. We built this with our own R&D team, and you can see that's how we're able to overlay these data quality metrics on top of the Lineage as well. So you can see a screenshot, you can see the video here on screen, and so this is providing that additional context to Lineage, right? And we call these our, these badges on top of them, and I think that they've added this a nice flavor to cross-system and end-to-end Lineage that our users really appreciate, right? So there definitely are different types of solution providers out there. I think that it's important that if Lineage is important to you and your organization, that you look for one that can have these overlays out of the box as well.
Mm-hmm. Just wanted to provide another example of overlays. In a sense, pipelines are executed at different speeds. So, for example, again, I've seen a lot of time data scientist creates the model, and this model is so slow. And guess what? If we would overlay the the speed of with which the pipeline executed, we could highlight those slow pipelines in red and probably consume data from different sources, or maybe improve our code, because maybe it's our code is a problem that caused the delay in the pipeline. But again, I'm talking about overlaying of pure physical lineage to the operational component that helps to resolve all kind of day-to-day issue for other people. And finally, I want to talk about the popularity metrics. Sometimes it could be different name. It could be usage score. It doesn't really matter how it's called. And it is also calculated differently, because it could measure how frequently the data asset or like data table is used by users, or how many queries are executed against this table, or maybe how many users are uses this dashboard, or how many API calls are executed against this particular data set. Doesn't really matter. Lots of many different metrics, and typically this metric could be calculated by using multiple metrics and compose some kind of a derived number. But it is very important, because first of all, it helps to point to trusted data sources, which are tables and reports and data sets, and it adds this trustability context to the asset. And maybe it's kind of like, if everybody uses it, it probably is good, but nevertheless, it is an important thing. And you also could use it in search ranking. So one of the problem in data catalogs that it has so much information, but once you start searching, thousands and if not millions different information pop-ups, and guess what, you need to somehow organize it. So similar like a Google ranking, we could use this asset popularity ranking when we are presenting the results of a catalog. So often we also want to scope our priorities. For example, let's say we are migrating data to different cloud provider. Let's talk about high important data assets, low and not important, maybe not important, are not going to be converted whatsoever. Again, without this popularity or usage functionality, it will be really, really hard. Now, I really like superimposing this information into the Lineage information, because I sometimes see pipelines that consist exclusively from a very low usable tables. And then I'm asking, why do we have this pipeline in the first place? Why we keep executing those processes that are produced dashboards that are not used by anyone? So again, by superimposing this information, that's really helpful to see and clean up our house, actually.
Yeah. I mean, the heads of analytics and the heads of BI that we're speaking to and that we're showcasing this to really love this. And as you said, Olga, brings you back to one of your earlier slides, which is a key use case of Lineage, right? The impact, the decommissioning, the change management, and last but not least, the migration. So if I'm moving from Teradata to Snowflake, or if I'm moving from Tableau to Sigma, what are my most used assets? What are my most used reports? And can we actually draw out a roadmap? Again, it brings in your kind of map analogy to this as well. Like, how am I really going to make this migration seamless for the team? And that I'm not like letting any balls drop. And I think this is what this, as you use the word superimposing, and I think that's exactly what it does here, right? It just gives you that additional context to move with confidence through some of these projects, which is what I think a lot of teams are looking for at the end of the day.
Okay. And finally, let's talk about data lineage governance. So we talked about all those layers, and those layers pretty much is a first step. It's a collection step. We are collecting business, technical, and operational metadata. And the best practice is automate as much as possible. Now, you will not be able to automate business level lineage metadata. You could a little bit automate semantic with the help of AI, but be prepared that it's not purely automated exercise. That's why you need to define the scope. Do it one process at a time, do it the important processes, but don't try to collect, lineage about everything. Now, you do want to say the crowdsourcing mindset, and you probably want to become friends with the engineering department and make sure that they do check the code into the GitHub where your tool could access and read it. Make sure that they have very good practices, because without those very good practices, you wouldn't be able to extract high-level lineage. And finally, once you collect it, you want to visualize it. So to me, it's a process of selecting a tool. Sometimes it's one tool that collects the lineage and visualize it. I've seen cases where one tool collects lineage, but then the other tool has a little bit better visualization. Doesn't really matter, as long as you're happy with the way how you navigate from one component to another. But here's the important thing. We want to talk about change management right from the start. The minute the lineage is extracted, automatically it's already stale. So the minute you are setting up the job that extract the lineage, you have to set up another job that's basically make sure that whatever you extracted will be updated. Now, you also want to do some cleanup in the house. For example, if the lineage showed that the data moved from table A to table B, and then the table B become deleted, somehow your automated processes need to clean up those assets that are already deprecated and they actually don't exist anymore. So this change management is really important. Now, finally, lineage is not going to be perfect. You will have gaps. You will have incorrect lineage in some cases. You will have many other little hiccups. So somehow you might want to develop the processes, how you are dealing, how you spotting those hiccups and how you are fixing them and what is the process. So to me, that's a lineage reporting. Lineage metadata is data, same way how we do data quality management, we really need to perform lineage quality management. And finally, my personal advice, don't collect all the lineage, start the adoption and consumption of lineage as soon as you started, as soon as you created it. Because what you might find that you did all this good job, you worked for the last 2 years on this lineage, but you don't have a single person using those diagrams for whatever purposes, and that's not good. So adoption needs to start literally and go hands in hands with your lineage. Don't develop your lineage diagram if you don't have a person who is planning to use them one way or another. And I guess that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you, Olga. And thank you, Manan, as well, for this fantastic presentation. We'll have it open up to questions. Otherwise, that's it, guys. Thank you, Olga. Thank
Awesome job. Awesome.